Hey guys, welcome to Hashtag Behind Relationship Goals. I'm Bones.
I'm Fofo, and this is...
Sopa.
Before we continue, we would like to let everybody know that this podcast is brought to you by...
Mr. Paws.
Woot woot. So what is Mr. Paws, Bonizi?
So Mr. Paws is a premium grooming service that they also have hotel services for pets. So Soba is actually a Mr. Paws ambassador.
Yeah! Soba!
Artista na! What's up, what's up?
Soba is one of the faces of Mr. Paws, and she had her first grooming session with them around a week and a half ago.
Yeah, so it was a really fun experience because she just had all her shots completed and we wanted her to be fully groomed. So we got her nails cut. And what I loved was they were so gentle when they were washing her coat, even cutting her nails kasi medyo natatakot siya. But I really love the way that they took care of the pets at Mr. Paws.
What I liked about it was they were very thorough and explained things. It was my first time to bring Soba to a groomer. I usually do things myself. Of course, it was a bit nerve-wracking to hand Soba over to be cleaned, washed, have her nails cut, have her ears cleaned and plucked, and then have her hair cut as well. They explained how they handle. Let's say, paano kung umiyak si Soba? What if she panics? They explain what they do when each of these things happen. And it just gave me a lot of confidence to hand over Soba. And for the next succeeding grooming sessions, I might not even have to be there anymore.
Yeah, so Soba now smells like green tea. Yun yung scent na pinili namin for her shampoo.
Yeah, so if you have any pet grooming needs, any pet hotel needs, or anything else pet related, then check out Mr. Paws. We'll talk a bit more about them later on in this podcast.
All right, now moving on with our topic for the day. You know how when the door closes, another door opens, or another window opens, window of opportunity opens.
Okay, yeah, I get the saying.
So, the thing is, pag may nagsara na pinto, andun pa rin yung baggage. So you still have the baggage of the past. The hardest part that I think that we all have to go through is letting go of all that baggage.
So letting go is our topic for today.
Yes, letting go of various things.
Oh, wow. So off the top of your head, who do you think has had a harder time letting go between the two of us?
Oh, me.
Really?
I think when it comes to material things, I had a harder time, definitely, because I was more materialistic early on in the relationship.
When you said the topic of letting go, I have a couple of stories before I met you that I think will enlighten you to the kind of person whom I used to be.
Let's start a little bit light for
Game.
this episode. So when we were kids, of course, we grew up having toys from, various relatives or yung mga ninong or ninang. As we got older, there's always that sentimental value to these things. It could be like a blanket that we can never let go of, or like that stuffed toy that you always just had in your room, but as you got older, it just stayed there and gathered dust. So what was the first thing that you had to let go from your childhood?
I think mine revolved around the basics. So like you said, I'm sure I had a blanket. I'm sure I had a hot dog pillow. And I had a hot dog pillow which was around half my size. It was a mini hot dog pillow. It was for kids. It had a Lifesaver print on it. You know, the Lifesaver candy?
Yeah.
So it had a colored Lifesaver candy print on it. I just had a lot of photos with that. I wonder if I actually have photos that I could find of it.
I haven't seen that pillow.
I think I was attached to that. And then I think another thing that I was attached to when I was a kid was my Game Boy. A third thing that I was attached to would be my shoes.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot of shoes when I was younger, and my dad would get me rubber shoes from time to time to make me play basketball. I would say those three things when I was super young. This is maybe like 6, 7, 8 years old. I think those were the things I was attached to. But I think the attachment level wasn't very deep because I was so young.
Okay.
But it was definitely things that I remember that, hey, I really like this one.
So yours was a pillow. Mine was a journal that I had. Since I was in kindergarten, I always had a journal. But every year, every grade year that I would grow up, I would always buy a new notebook. But it just so happened that there was this one journal that I just couldn't get rid of. It was my journal from the second grade. That's one that I always just had there in my closet or like on my shelf. Another one would be, is it weird to say like my online account on Neopets?
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I think that's cool. Yeah.
Get rid of it. For some reason, even after not playing for so long, I would randomly check if Neopets was still alive and I would log into that account and just check up on it. I could not forget it. And I was just so attached na ang dami kong oras that I spent on this game. I can't get rid of it.
A lot of younger people got really attached to their Friendster and Multiply accounts.
I was really attached to my Multiply account.
Right, because you invested so much time into it.
There was a lot of emotion that I put into that.
Yeah, and you could design your Multiply account. For the younger people out there, Friendster was
The Facebook
before Facebook. And Multiply was the Facebook before Friendster.
No, it was
Wasn't
Tumblr before. Parang it was
Okay,
like
something
Tumblr.
like a Tumblr. Or like an Instagram. There you go.
Oh yeah, because you could post albums of photos.
Yeah, so Multiply was like an Instagram before Instagram, like way back. It
On
was a
desktop.
website where you could upload photos and everybody uploaded their own photos and you could customize the website and how it looked to make it more personalized. And I think people would buy cameras
Just for
just
that.
to upload to Multiply. It was a real investment. It was a real financial and emotional investment for a lot of people. So I can imagine how, when that went away, that was a difficult part of letting go for them.
Then the last one for me would have to be these bed sheets that I had since we were young. I think these were my parents' bed sheets at one point. It was a pink, very light pink bed sheet, and I knew exactly where the holes in this bed sheet were. But the thing was, it was just so comfortable and it was so soft and old for some reason. But I just didn't want mom to throw it away, even though there were so many holes in it. It just felt so comfortable and homey.
Gotcha. But as I got a bit older, like mga, I'd say age 9, 10, 11, things changed just a little bit because I became more aware of my surroundings and
Yeah.
I had developed more moments that I would remember and cherish, right? So the two things which I had a difficult time letting go were gray shirts. There was a time when you look at my photos that I was only wearing gray shirts, and I think I had like 3 oversized gray shirts that I would rotate with. And it was so funny because my titos and titas would already comment. There's like, oh, gray shirt ka na naman, Mick. Ano to?
Wait, why gray shirt?
I don't know. I just liked it. So I had one big plain gray shirt. I had another gray shirt, which I think had design. I think maybe a Mickey Mouse design.
Okay, well, yeah, your
And
favorite.
I don't know. I was a boring kid, I guess.
I wonder why gray, because when I was younger, I stayed away from gray shirts because they made my underarms look like halata that my underarms were wet.
I
That's why
didn't care.
I didn't wear gray.
I didn't care. And then the second thing was, again, shoes. But this time, I remember that I had these Nike Penny Ones. I think Air Penny Ones.
Okay.
So they're hype beast shoes now, Bones.
Are they?
Yeah.
You have to
Somewhat,
show me
somewhat.
these because I don't remember what they look like.
So I had this, and I remember I used to play touchball or dodgeball, but touchball sa
Touchball, I was
Pilipinas.
like, okay.
I used to play touchball in school with these shoes.
Oh, wow.
And I just became so attached to them na kahit butas na yung loob niya.
Yeah.
Yung parang tatagos na dun
Yeah,
sa sole.
like your toes are gonna touch the ground or something.
I would still wear them. And eventually, it took me so long to let go of rubber shoes because I would make them super pudpud and unusable. Kailangan nagsasalita na yung sole.
It has to be talking
before
already.
someone could tell me that they're gonna throw it away.
Oh gosh.
So that's where you see that my connection with inanimate objects was growing.
I think also growing up, there was a time when you would go to weddings or you would go to debuts and they would give these little trinkets for giveaway. Like it would be like an angel or like a little basket and it had the picture of whoever was celebrating. And I would just see these at home. Like they would just be like in the cabinet or even in my tita's house, it was full of stuff like that. So collecting stuff throughout the years and through time became a thing and kind of like a memorabilia kind of thing. Like, oh, I'll remember this moment if I have these things.
So what did you feel when you were letting go? Because I think when I was younger, of course, I had no idea why I felt this way, right? But when I look back, maybe it was because I thought that these objects had become part of my identity.
Yeah. That's what you think. Because for me, I had the journal And if I felt like I was giving it away, somebody was going to read a part of me that I didn't want anyone else to know, or somebody was going to see it, or I was giving away my secrets to someone else. That's how I felt.
For me, with the shoes and the shirts, because I had been with them for so long, it's like they had been through so many experiences with me. So just like a person, if you go through a lot of experiences with a person, you feel this connection. And I think that is where the letting go part became difficult, because I
There's
felt there was an
sentimental.
identity.
Yeah, there's that
with them.
sentimental value.
Yeah, sentimental value. That also works.
Identity, sentimental value, and it's also moments in time that you go back to.
We're getting deeper and deeper into the letting go factor of our lives. So I think the next one would be teenage years, and this could possibly be love life.
Maybe, yes.
So for you, you go first. You go first on this one.
Syempre, we all have our puppy love moments, right? When I was a teenager, you go through relationships. And since it's your first relationship, you think, oh gosh, this is such a heavy feeling. I'm never going to feel this ever again. When I had my first ever breakup, I felt like I fell into a hole. I felt like my
What age was this?
high school, fourth year high school. Parang puppy love lang kasi siya. You know those relationships that last 2 months. As in, ganun lang siya. And I thought it was a big thing. But at that moment, I was I feel like my insides are eating me alive. And I feel like, how am I going to get past this? Because even though the relationship wasn't, as serious, or you didn't have such a deep connection, the fact that someone said, I don't want to be with you, it hurts. And it hurts a lot. And you feel like you're unwanted in that moment.
As a youngin, how did you resolve that? What did you do?
Okay, so the things that I tried to do to let go or move on was, one, I deleted everything in my phone about this person. I made sure that I didn't have anything in my house that was connected to him, because I didn't want to be reminded of him anymore. The next one would be to watch sappy shows, because I felt like if I cried because of these sappy shows, I would let all my emotions out and I wouldn't have to feel pain or sadness anymore. And the last one would be to constantly talk to either my mom or my sister or one of my friends about it, because I felt like the more that I hid what I was feeling, the sadder I would get and the heavier I would feel. So as I talked to people about it and I talked more about it, the more that I would just laugh about it. So these were things that I tried to consistently do. It was a conscious effort, definitely.
So mine kind of goes from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. I guess my first real bout of having to let go was when my dad passed. This moment in my life definitely shaped who I am now. During that time, I was 16 years old. The first few years were definitely super duper difficult. And I think I'm going to talk about those few years moving forward.
Yeah.
Because that's when my sense of nostalgia was super duper strong. Because at that time, I had lost someone so important in my life.
Yeah.
But it was after those first few years, later on when I was in my 20s, I actually was able to use that moment, that the passing of my dad, to help myself grow. You actually caught the 20s part. So you never caught the 16 to 20 years old.
When you were grieving.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly that. I guess the grieving part, the grieving process, and when I felt a lot of intense emotions that I could not process and understand. I think that was the very first time that I had to let go of someone. Of course, it was kind of my dad was kind of taken away.
Yeah.
But of course, trying to accept the fact, I think that was the challenge.
What did you have to do to help yourself get through that process?
To be honest with you, age 16 to 20 was a blur in terms of what was I trying to do.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea what was happening. I was really just going through life. And I had no idea that it was a grieving process from 16 to 20. It's only in hindsight that I realized what it was.
But I mean, in the essence, syempre, you're not completely letting go in that moment, because I think what you're trying to let go is the sadness part.
I guess
Hindi
so.
ba? Because I mean, you want to cherish every single moment that you have. So it's not necessarily letting go completely, because you always want to remember your dad and the good times that you guys had.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's letting go in the sense that you need to accept that this person is not in your life at this moment.
Yeah. Oh, Fofo. Yeah, Fofo doesn't usually share super deep stuff like that. Yeah, you don't. Like, usually,
Really?
not like to that extent. No, I mean, like with the people out there. Of course, I know.
Oh, okay.
I
okay,
know,
gets,
syempre, we
gets.
talk about these things.
Yeah,
But not
yeah.
on the podcast. Did you ever feel like there was a moment that you said, yes, I think I've accepted it, and then something just hits you and you're like, I'm not ready yet?
I think it was the opposite for me. For quite a while when I was 16, 17, I was always thinking why. So why did this happen? And I guess that was stopping me from letting go because I was trying to understand it. To be honest with you, if I were to sum up this one line that a tito told me, I mean, of course, this is not verbatim. I'm really summarizing it. He said, why not? The way that hit me was that, he's in a better place. So why would I deny my dad that?
Yeah.
That was the one that helped me start to move on. And that is something that I carried with me in life, apparently. And when you look at it later on, we're going to talk about letting go in our relationship.
Yeah.
And you're going to see how that conversation with my tito kind of influenced how I make decisions and how I treat, letting go of things moving forward.
Well, thank you for sharing, Fofo. I mean, I think these are things that, are healthy to talk about because
Yeah.
it helps us tackle our emotions right then and there rather than bottling it all up and waiting for it to explode.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's definitely almost always heavy when you bring it
Yeah.
up. But the thing is, these are experiences that almost anyone and everyone will inevitably have to go through. So me being able to share it, I think, helps to a certain extent. Just another point of view from a person who's gone through it already. And before we even continue, that was a bit heavier than we thought. Let's take a little break and move back to the sponsor of this podcast, which is
Mr. Paws. So I'm going to their Instagram right now. It's at Mr. Paws PH, and you can see all the dogs that get groomed there. You'll see Soba there from time to time. But what's cool about it is they actually have these really cool dryer rooms. And I was really curious at first what it was because the dogs just sit there and they're just like wondering what's happening. Apparently, they're getting dried already just while being comfortable. So
it looks like a see-through refrigerator. And I would say it's the highlight of Mr. Paws because
Yeah.
it looks cool. So it looks like they're getting a sauna / massage / dried at the same time. And it's very cool to look at and very Instagrammable, if I may
it
be
is
honest.
actually pretty cool. And then it's cool because they're getting dried really safely. They're not getting shocked because sometimes Soba gets really scared of, she's so knocked out right now, but sometimes she gets really scared of loud noises. So if your dog is matatakutin or they get scared easily, then I think the Mr. Paws dryer room is actually a perfect experience for them.
The reason why we were so happy that they were going to sponsor the podcast and that Soba is a brand ambassador with them is simply because of the trust and the confidence we have with them. You are entrusting your
Babies.
baby to them, and you need to know that the trust level is there. And we wanted to share our experience with them because our confidence and trust level with them has gone sky high. So this is an experience that all the parents can also experience out there. So if you're looking for a groomer to try out, Mr. Paws is something that you can definitely check out. And now we move back to the topic at hand, which is letting go. And let's move forward in the timeline. So we've structured our podcasts to a certain extent where we talk about topics and we kind of go through our early childhood, teen years, up to the time that we're together. And I like it because it gives you a sense of how we grow. And I think this podcast is all about growing and sharing our own experience because everybody grows. It's inevitable. I'm sorry. If you don't want to grow, it's going to happen.
Change is a constant thing.
Seeing this process and the growth of people, which is basically you and me, it's relatable to everyone and anyone. And I think that's also why I enjoy sharing. And hopefully that's also why you guys enjoy listening.
Yeah.
So we move on to the part where Bones and I are already together. So what was our first experience of letting go?
I think for us, let me put it at a material item kind of thing.
Yeah.
The first time I moved into, my own place, I asked Mikael to help me. And we brought all of my stuff from our old house, like the house that I was living in with Mom, Victor, and Lauren. Mikael was so shocked because the room was full of boxes. Like I just had stuff piled up upon each other in the room. And he was like, what the freak? Why do you have so many stuff? He couldn't say anything for like 10 minutes because he was just dumbfounded at all the stuff in the room.
At this point, I was a super anti-hoarder kind of guy.
You were there before Marie Kondo.
Yeah, so I was super anti-hoarding at this point. And when I saw all the boxes that Bonizi had, basically the amount of boxes she had would not even fit into the new condo that she was moving into.
I was moving into a 1-bedroom apartment.
It was impossible. Like we actually moved all of the boxes and it was floor to ceiling. It took up 75% of the unit. It was crazy. I looked at her and I was like, do you see a problem here? And here's the craziest thing. You had no reaction. It seemed like she didn't see a problem with what was happening. But literally, it was a maze. It was a maze of cardboard boxes as soon as you entered the unit.
I was like, what's the matter? Like, these are my stuff. I mean, it's not like you didn't see it when you were at my old house before. So why is it a problem now that they're in boxes? But I guess it was more of a, do you really need all these things?
Yeah, this was after Miss World, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
Eventually, we unpacked all of her boxes.
We opened up every single one. And Mikael's first thing was, put aside everything that you use first. And then we'll go to the next step, which is look at the things that you don't even touch, but they're always there.
This was the difficult part because right when I said that, there was an emotional reaction for Bonizi and she was like, why?
Why do I have to give up all these things? I mean, I grew up with them. They're good memories.
But here's the thing. We already said why. She just didn't process it. We said, why don't you set aside the things that are always there but you never use? And that was the key word right there. You never use. So Bones, do you remember why you still kept things that you never used and never threw away?
Yeah, I like that it was just there and I had a certain memory attached to it. But in retrospect, it was really just eating up space. And I didn't even, spend even a minute with these things. These would be like magazines that I had a subscription to. They would be books that I probably collected, but I only read half of it once.
So definitely books.
Magazines.
There were awards. There were scrapbooks. There were gifts from friends. Yung mga nabubulok na.
Yeah.
Yung nabubulok na toys or maybe keychains na hindi mo na makita yung pangalan doon sa keychain. Yung talagang nabulok na yung mga gamit. But she was still keeping it because there was still a memory attached to it. But then at the same time, I was like, dude, this is so dirty. Like the last time you looked at this was definitely at least 5 years ago. Some maybe even 10 years ago. So for me, this is where we're tying up what I mentioned a while ago. So my growth in terms of how I felt about nostalgia and sentimental value. I had come up with a certain stand when it came to nostalgia and sentimental value.
Okay.
And what I thought was that the memories that truly matter for me are already up here. If I need an item to remember a memory, I'm sure there may aliw factor, recalling that memory. But maybe that memory wasn't so important.
Because you needed something else to remind you of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I understand. When it comes to these old nostalgic things, it's always so easy to say, but these are my memories. Later on, I want to show my kids these and all these things. But what I told Bones was that, you know what? You and I, moving forward, we're going to make so many more memories. If we get together and we have kids, we're going to have so many memories to make with our kids.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, walang mawawala kung hindi mo pinakita yung keychain sa kanila na binigay ng friend mo dahil pumunta siyang Bataan. I mean, yeah, it's a cool memory, but it's like you're also just hoarding memories.
Yeah.
You're not just hoarding items, you're hoarding memories to the point na not all memories are insanely important.
Yeah.
And especially if they're taking up space in your life, if they're cluttering up your space, you need to be able to draw a line and say, okay, this is too much. And Bonizi at that point had too much. It wasn't going to fit in her house. She had to draw a line and say, okay, these things, as much as there are memories attached to it, it's still clutter
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
And it was nice because once we slowly started getting rid of the things that I didn't need, and that included clothes as well that I had since like I was 12 years old, the space slowly started to feel lighter. It slowly started to feel refreshing because I didn't have the quote unquote baggage that all the other items that I did before had. I felt like I was in a new zone rather than just moving my stuff to a different place. It felt like I was completely in a new headspace as well.
Let's run down a couple of specific items which you had difficulty letting go of. When she did Miss World, she went to a lot of barangays, not just in the Philippines, but also outside the country, in Latin America, in Europe. And each time she would go to these places, they would create plaques for her, plaques of appreciation, to the point that the plaques were like
Super big.
super big. And I was like, Bones, is it okay if we throw this away? I appreciate the fact that, you were given something to show their appreciation for you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, Bones, how important is this to you? This is taking up a lot of space.
Yeah, I think it came to a point where we were like, is it practical to have this at home? Because it was such a nice memory to have. But honestly, do you remember every single thing that happened in that moment that you got this?
I was just telling her, you need to really just draw the line on, is this really sentimental to you? Is there a real weighty memory attached to this object? Or is it just you projecting sentimentality into it?
Or showing off something.
Right. Yeah, that could also be one
Yeah,
thing.
definitely practicality because we didn't want to overflow the different spaces in our home, and we wanted to make sure that every single thing that we had here was functional. And that's something that we always do, even when we buy new stuff. So since we rarely buy new things, that's one thing we always ask ourselves. Is this something that we're always going to use? Is it just going to sit in a corner and gather dust? Because if it is, then maybe it's not worth having at home.
How has this evolution of letting go led to our lifestyle at the moment?
I think it's been helpful because now we do like a spring cleaning like thrice a year, where we go through our stuff and we see if we use it a lot. And if not, then we'll probably sell it online, sell it to friends or family, or like give away some things that we really don't use anymore.
Our material life at the moment, I would say, is quite sparse. Mm-hmm. There aren't a lot. We don't have a lot of material things. The material things that we do have are very functional, and I think that was a word that you used very well.
Yeah, like everything like tech that we have is something that we use for work and something that we've gotten an ROI on.
It's made things very easy for us. It's made things very light in so many senses of the word. So light in the sense of physical space, because we actually really have a lot of space in our condo. Mm-hmm. Our walls aren't littered with paintings or stuff that are hanging. But at the same time, light in the sense na there's nothing that's distracting us from the present.
Yeah.
We're always looking forward, trying to see what kind of memories are we going to create rather than what kind of memories have we had.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people go down memory lane and look for that nostalgia, sometimes that can take hours.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're just like sitting down in a dusty drawer or cabinet and you're looking through stuff. But those few hours could have been just put to use hanging out with your loved ones and making nicer memories with them and newer ones at that.
I think if there's anything that we've really kept that is like that's just in a corner and we go back to every so often. We kept 2 photo albums each from each of our families that we can go back to every so often. We can show friends when they come over. It's nice to have these things. Back then, we really relied on like photos and developing the photos. So it's nice to look back on memories like that. So we kept 2 albums each.
Yeah. So, but like I said, and like I always say in the previous podcast episodes, this lifestyle that we have, it's something that we grew into, and we're really just sharing how we grew into it. Everybody else has different things and different opinions when it comes to memories, nostalgia, decluttering and dehoarding. To each his own talaga. Everyone has their own journey, but we're just sharing how we got to this place. And I think now I see the importance of having to, share our timeline growing up.
Mm-hmm.
and how that happened. And my turning point was when I lost my dad, because it just gave me so much more perspective on, letting go is not a bad thing. It's something that you're going to be doing continuously throughout your life.
Yeah.
So letting go of these small things, I was like, it's okay. This is fine. I mean, I'll be able to tell the story when I remember it. And if I don't, I'll have new memories to make in the future.
And I think like because we've been through these moments in life, it's nice to remember it like from our perspective. It's nice na balikan natin through stories rather than through items. But that's just how we are as a couple and as individuals.
Since we do get a lot of stuff because of our work, so a lot of brands send stuff, a lot of people send gifts over. I'm just curious, because obviously we have no problem letting go of material things nowadays. What do you think about regifting these materials?
I don't have a problem with sharing things. 20 bottles of lotion, like for example. I'm not going to be able to use those 20 bottles before it expires. I want to be able to share these things with the people around me. So I don't have a problem actually with sharing these things. If it comes to like
Okay, fine.
a Christmas gift.
All right.
Okay, so kunwari Christmas gift. And somebody gave me, let's say, shoes that I already had. What do I do with them? What do you do with them?
Okay, so obviously you have no problem regifting. So where do you draw the line? Where does it come to a point where this is a gift that you will not regift?
There have been items that were handmade.
Gotcha.
That they really spent time and effort in making, and they said, nah, I made this specifically for you. Like, remember when Kuya Roland made us
Oh my God, I was thinking about that same thing.
Yeah, so our driver, Kuya Roland, made us these baskets, and he made me like this basket na pink made out of recycled material, and he made Mikael like this house made out of recycled material. And although like I didn't know what I was going to use it for, I found it so like endearing and heartwarming that he actually spent time making this to give to us. So I found a way to actually use it in our home.
But that's the exception. I can count a handful of gifts that we decided we're not going to re-gift or throw away, to be honest with you.
What are these things?
One would be like something like Kuya Roland, what he gave.
Yeah.
Because you could tell that there was so much effort. More often than not, there's not a lot of things that we won't re-gift. Because for me, sayang rin if you put it straight in the trash can.
Yeah.
There are other people who may be able to appreciate it. It's not like we don't appreciate what the person gave us. It's just that sayang talaga yung actual product and actual item na binigay nila.
There have been moments, but these are with really good friends of mine. I had a friend gift me something, and I said, thank you, but I don't think I'll be able to use this. But these are friends that I really grew up with, and they know me from the inside out, so they know that this is my personality. Sa kanila ko lang kayang sabihin yun na thank you ha, pero I can't use this item.
I'll be honest, I'm sure some of you guys are thinking, paano kung ma-offend namin yung mga nagbigay ng gifts? And I'll be honest that there will be other people who will never understand the concept of regifting. For them, we gave you a gift, you use this.
Yeah.
So that's their line of thinking. And I know there are people like that. Unfortunately,
I had somebody get mad at me. Somebody gave me an item that they thought I would be able to use because it was a hobby or a like of mine. But in reality, I already had something like that. So I decided to give it to somebody else who I thought would be able to use it. And I guess they found out about it. They're like, Megan's so ungrateful. Like, she doesn't accept like this gift that I gave her.
Yeah, I have 2 points to that.
Okay.
To that story. Because Megan already had a similar item to that, she had 2 choices. She would either store it for it to never be used or throw it, or the second choice, which is to give it away and give it to someone who could actually use it.
Yeah.
So rather than wasting space and wasting that item, you might as well just give it to someone to be used so that mas magamit siya.
Yeah, because you could either give it back to the person who gave you the gift, but then they would be upset. Or you could regift it to somebody and then they would still be upset that you regifted their gift. So, I mean,
Exactly.
what do you choose, diba?
You need to be able to be aware of the feelings of the person who gave it.
Definitely.
Being aware of that person's feelings doesn't mean that, oh, you keep it. Okay, you just need to be aware that you don't like give it back or hindi ka naman disrespectful in the way that
That
you
you say
handle
it,
the
yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. And I think one example of showing disrespect is, let's say, binigyan tayo ng coffee set
Okay.
ng friend A.
Oh, we've gotten a lot of coffee sets,
Diba?
by the way.
And then, i-re-gift natin. Pero yung pag-re-gift natin, nakalimutan natin si friend A yung nagbigay.
O, binalik natin
Re-gift
sa
natin
kan-
kay friend A. I think that is extremely disrespectful.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be aware of at least those things. So not just disrespectful, sobrang nakakahiya. People are allowed to, handle gifts that they receive in their own way, but at the same time be respectful that, you are given this gift out of love, out of admiration maybe. So the very least that we could do is at least respect that action of being given something. So maybe a thank you letter to them and not re-gifting it back to the person who sent it.
Actually, one thing
Which has happened to people. It hasn't happened to me, thank God.
Thank goodness. But what's interesting is that for our wedding, we actually didn't ask for any gifts. Like people were saying, what do you want like for your wedding? And we said, it's fine. You don't need to give us gifts because all we wanted was to celebrate our marriage and our ceremony and family. So we said, you don't need to give us anything. Just be there and we're happy now with that. Because we didn't want a bunch of things piled up also at our home. All right, so now we move on to the loaded question of the week. Dun, 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 dun. All right, loaded question of the week. Since we're talking about letting go, is it okay to be friends with your ex and to discuss with them your problems with your current partner?
Oh, wow.
Wow, that is loaded.
That's a loaded question. The thing is, I don't talk to my ex, and
Ako din.
I understand how different dynamics could make this question possible. It's just that right now, this question is not applicable to me or Bones at all. An example of where I imagine this might be possible is kung kabarkada mo, tapos naging girlfriend mo, and then you eventually broke up, but that barkada still remains. Then there's still always a connection to your ex.
Actually, I have an example. Yung kuya ko, his high school girlfriend was actually his barkada. And they broke up eventually, like somewhere down the line. But they were like 15, 16 years old when they got together. But they still remain really good friends. And she's actually a really good family friend because her dad is my ninong.
Okay, wow.
So we're like really close-knit, our family. And they stayed really good friends. She would always come over to the house and we'd hang out. Eventually, my brother met his future wife. And she, in the beginning, was so jealous of my brother's ex. But because they were really good friends, she just wasn't out of the picture. She was always there. Somewhere down the line, my sister-in-law, Melissa, became really good friends with her. And mas close pa sila ngayon. But there was like that different kind of dynamic that they were always like childhood friends and they grew up together.
This question is just so different from our reality. I'm having a difficult time answering it. Bonizi, if I had an ex who I was still talking to, if we fought and I would be texting my ex,
I think it would be weird. Like if you went to your ex for problems because whatever problems that you guys had are completely different from ours because you were a different person then, you're a different person with me, and you grew into the person you are today, not just because of, your surroundings, but also because of the things that we learned together. And whatever principles you might have had before might be different from now. So parang I find it hard to process that you would go to an ex who you were romantically involved with, because in my head I'd be thinking, what are they going to reminisce now? How like their time was better than this fight that we had. So
gotcha. That's scary. That is a scary moment because they could do that. That possibility is there.
Like I trust you completely, but syempre, you can't trust the emotions that pop out of there.
Here's my take on this. I completely understand where you're coming from because that's us.
Yeah.
You're speaking for me at this point as well.
Yeah.
And I agree with Bonizi. Here's the thing. I would just like to put a disclaimer because I am well aware that there are couples with this kind of dynamic. Who's to say that it's not working?
Yeah.
It could possibly be working. Yeah, there might be some downfalls, but there also might be some advantages that we don't see because we don't live that life.
Because we don't experience it. That's correct. I'm just speaking from our point of view.
Yeah, so Bonizi is just speaking from our point of view where we do not experience it at all. We're kind of trying to just
figure out how.
imagine it. We're trying to imagine that being in that situation. Really, that's all it is, just imagining it. But I'm sure there are so many different ways of how relationships work.
Yeah.
Just to move back to the point of this podcast, the point of this podcast is to share our point of view and our situations. Just sharing that, and if people can relate to it, then great.
Yeah.
And if people just like listening to it as a source of entertainment, that's also fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also very much aware that there are so many other different kinds of relationships out there with crazy dynamics or more simplistic dynamics.
But it works for them.
And it works for them, and that's valid. So that's also cool. We're still very much aware of that. But yeah, that was a tough question for us, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Do you want to answer the second loaded question of the week?
Oh, yeah, I'm game.
Okay. Loaded question of the week number 2. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. What if your current partner can't or is still not over their past relationship? What will make you decide to let him or her go?
This happened to me because I had a very strong first relationship, and those feelings were carried over to the time when I was together with Bones. So we got together January. I only fully let go of my first relationship maybe middle of that year. So 6 months into being together, it was really just me being in the moment with Bones and allowing myself to enjoy moments with her. Yun yung panlaban ko dun sa nostalgia of my past relationship.
I remember that Mikael used to talk about his ex a lot during the first half of our relationship. Like, he wanted to share like stories and moments that they went through. At first, I didn't mind because I mean, like, they were actually pretty cool stories, and it showed me how Mikael was when he was in his first relationship, how he would tackle different things, the way that he thought. I was like, okay, I'm taking it this way so that I learn more about my partner and I learn more about how he is as a person. But then eventually I said, you know what? You don't really need to talk about your ex because we're also making new memories. I don't mind these stories, but maybe it's time to like kind of lessen your stories about her.
I guess that was her time. On my timeline, I was enforcing it. I didn't know when I was going to be able to get over that nostalgia and those memories and those triggers where it would trigger memories of my past relationship. But it happened. And I think it only happened because I was so open to, making newer memories with Bonizi. I think it was midway through that year that I first asked her, through our first year, where I just suddenly realized that, Bonizi, you are the love of my life. Like, there are no triggers anymore for my past relationship. And that was only because I was giving us a real shot.
Yeah.
So I think it could have also gone to the point where, I would just sink into these old memories and be with you. But it's also the old memories that are in the forefront of my mind. Yeah. I didn't want that to happen. I just respected that old memories would be triggered. But I was always looking forward to what you and I were having. And that led to 10 years of being together. What's up?
And getting married. Woohoo!
I think that worked out pretty well. That was how I let go of it. I respected that it was there and I didn't force it out.
Yeah.
I didn't force, no, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't think that would have worked. So I kind of just let it flow. And I was scared because I didn't know if that flow was ever gonna stop, but it did. And I think eventually for a lot of people the same will happen because time has this crazy way of dulling things.
Yeah, it does.
Dulling pain, dulling memories, and that's what happened to me.
Our episode for today kind of went up and down because we had like some light moments, but we also had some really heavy moments for this podcast episode.
So thank you for joining us on this roller coaster ride. And before we get to the very end of this podcast, we'd like to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by
Mr. Paws.
And we have the brand ambassador of Mr. Paws right here, looking all nice, cute, fluffy, and fresh.
Yeah, and what I love about them is that you can schedule your appointments online. That is at www.mrpaws.ph, and you can check them out on Instagram, Mr. Paws PH. You can see how they groom the pets that go in there. You can also leave your pets there if you need to go away for a day or if you have work on location or whatnot. You can always leave them at the pet hotel and they will take really good care of your pets.
Yeah, Mr. Paws has been absolutely amazing in terms of a grooming experience for our first pet together. They really, really gave us a lot of confidence. I'm just going to go back to that because I think that's something that pet owners and parents should always have, especially when they're handing responsibility of their pet to someone else. So we're very, very happy with Mr. Paws. And if you want to know what it's all about as well, just check out their Instagram or visit one of their branches.
All right. And that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. You can also answer the loaded question of the week in the comment section. And we hope to see what your experiences are like. Because like Mikael said earlier, each relationship is different. Each experience is different. And it's nice to pick up a little thing or two from you guys.
All right. Well, that ends the podcast. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Fofo.
And I'm Bones.
Bye.
Bye.